Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us again for the fourth in our series of 5 webinars as part of TSG's SharePoint Month. I know that some of you have been with us from the start, and so thanks for coming back. Welcome to any of those who have been signposted by colleagues, and we are confident that you'll find it valuable. Today's topic is wherever I lay my hat, which is quite appropriate, as I believe Tony did have the Paul Young quiff in his younger days. Sadly, that's no longer the case. As you may find out, because we're also going to record another little video this morning called 5 Things You Need to Know About SharePoint in 60 Seconds, which will go on to the website in the next couple of weeks. And that's, again, a great opportunity for you to involve other people who might want a quick glimpse of what SharePoint can do without necessarily going into the depth of the webinars. So again, quick introductions for those of you who haven't met him or come across him or been to the webinars previously. I'm joined by Tony Hughes, who is TSG's SharePoint guru. There's very little that he doesn't know about SharePoint, and thankfully he's sharing that with us he's been sharing that with us over the last few weeks. He's also now struggling to cope with the fan mail, I believe, which is great. So keep that coming. As I said, I'm Stephen Green, and I'll take any questions and just make sure that things go smoothly. Now, one thing that I would say about today's webinar is that we are going to try a few things which will require flicking between screens. We've actually got Will, who was on the webinar last week, who's giving us a hand with that. We're also going to go to a webcam, and when we do, I'll try and explain what you need to do. You'll see that on your screens when it comes on, but bear with us. It is important because today's session is all about mobility. Again, just a reminder that these videos are available online if you want to share them, or if you want to go back to them and revisit any of the points that Tony's made. And again, we will be putting wherever I lay my hat on once the video's edited and ready to go up online. So you can find them at tsg.com/business-software/SharePoint. So dead easy to find, and again, we'll make sure that we send that link across to you. Once again, just very quickly, issues, imagination, improvement, the SharePoint 3 I's. Keep that in mind. Think about what Tony's showing you. Apply the principle of your own situation and your own business requirements, and look for those improvements that you can make in the business and the processes that you have. In terms of mobility, for those of you who have seen anything that Satya Nadella, the new CEO of, well, not so new CEO of Microsoft, has been talking about over the last 8 or 9 months, mobile first is one of the big things. So what Tony's going to go through today is about how you can use SharePoint to access and capture information. Huge potential for efficiency. And again, this is a real area where we've talked about this before, but we're all used to using apps. We're all used to filling in forms on the go on our mobile devices, on our tablets, and that's largely driven by our experience as consumers. And what SharePoint can do, and what Tony will show you today, is that experience can cross over into the business environment, and that's something that hasn't typically crossed over into the business environment for a lot of people. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Tony, who will take you through the rest of the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Good morning, everybody. On this momentous day in the UK, I've yet to vote yet, but I'll get round to that tonight. What I want to do is just start off with a very brief presentation, just to talk through some of the concepts we're going to look at today. Okay, so we're talking about SharePoint mobility. So what does this actually mean? Well, firstly, it's given people access to documents or data held within SharePoint when offline. How can we add documents or data into SharePoint again when we're offline? Can we respond to tasks assigned via SharePoint workflows when offline? And in some cases, maybe not, for today's audience, but do we have the ability to have an entire SharePoint solution available offline? And just to clarify, when I'm talking about offline is basically saying, well, we don't have any internet access to our Office 365 environment when we want to do these tasks. So what are the options around accessing documents or data when offline? Some of these are standard SharePoint stroke Office functionality. Some of these are more advanced solutions or applications you can buy to enhance your SharePoint environment. So if we look at documents first, one option for accessing documents when offline is to use the standard SharePoint Connect to Outlook option, and we'll show you that. We can use Sync to OneDrive, which obviously comes as part of the Office 365 environment. If we want to look at data or lists, we have the option to export to Excel, and we can view that data and have it updated when we're connected. And if you want something more sophisticated, I've put two applications on at the bottom here, which really are sort of class-leading applications for remote access to all things SharePoint, whether it's document libraries, data or lists. One is from a company called Colleago, and the application's called Colleago Briefcase. Basically, if you want to get more information on that, I would just suggest you go onto the Colleago website and have a look at one of their demo videos. And lastly, we've got an application from a company called Iora, and that's called GeoReplicator. GeoReplicator has got two main uses. One, it allows you to take an entire SharePoint environment, compress it, stick it on your laptop, and then have it synchronized whenever you're connected to the internet. And it's also used by a lot of organizations who are multi-site and they've got very low bandwidth between them. It can replicate SharePoint to local servers. It's also used a lot in the defense and the maritime industry, where an entire ship might have a SharePoint environment on there, which is getting documents created from an onshore head office, and we use Iora to send that data across. So if we want to add documents or data into SharePoint when offline, we've got two options. Basically, we can add documents via OneDrive, and if we want to add data, then we can use Nintex Mobile, and both of these we'll demonstrate later on this morning. If you want to respond to tasks assigned via SharePoint workflows when offline, again, we've got the Nintex suite of products available. So we can use Nintex Mobile Forms, or we can use Nintex Lazy Approval. Nintex Lazy Approval basically just allows us to respond to approval requests type emails just with a simple yes or no, and Nintex will then approve that task inside SharePoint, so we don't actually have to connect to SharePoint.
And Tony, again, just to make the point that we made before, which is that by using Nintex, you can do some of the same things by using coding, but by using Nintex, you're reducing that risk. You're making life more robust for yourself, yeah, by not going down the compiled code route.
Exactly, yeah. It's just an application and a solution you download, and it provides all the functionality. So people want to move away from having, managed code, which is developed internally or got third parties to develop. There's a definite shift away to just saying, if there's an app available, I'll download it and use that.
Great. Okay. One question before you, because I know you're keen to move on, but we've had a question in already, which is, did Dyson use SharePoint? No idea whether you know the answer to that one.
I actually do, for a number of reasons. It's quite funny actually, but I tweeted about Dyson a few months ago because I'm a real fan of Dyson Hoovers. And Dyson do use SharePoint across their organization. I think it was deployed, or the project started about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's one of the better known solutions within the SharePoint sort of world. So yes, Dyson do use it. Yeah. Okay, so right, what we're looking at here, the first thing I want to show is just we mentioned about using Connect to Outlook to give us mobile access to documents. So what we're looking at here is just a document library which has got the 2 PowerPoints in we've just used for the initial presentation. What I can do is actually, if I go library and say Connect to Outlook, okay, I get a little prompt and say yes, I want to allow that, and I can yes that, and then if I just come here, now I've got in my Outlook environment these documents here. Okay, so there's my SharePoint mobility, what does this mean? And there's my PowerPoint which Stephen started the webinar. Okay, what that means is that if I've just got a standard type of laptop like I've got here, and I haven't got any connectivity, I can actually just open Outlook offline, and I will have access to these documents. Okay, and they're updated just by standard sort of send receive. So if I was to upload another document in here, so if we just put in, let's have a look, just this health and safety document. Okay, so that's now inside SharePoint. If I just do a send receive inside Outlook, yeah, we're now reliant on the speed of my Outlook here, as that document will be then downloaded into Outlook as well. Seems to have gone on a go slow type of thing. Well, I'll actually come back to that and show you it, because obviously, oh no, there we go. So there's the health and safety document now. Okay, so in effect, I've got those documents available offline. So if I'm a salesperson and I've got various presentations or product data sheets, then I can have them connected to Outlook, and every time I do a send receive, it'll sync back to SharePoint, etc., and make those documents available. So that's just a very sort of, you know, cheap and cheerful way of giving people mobile access to documents. The other option is to actually use OneDrive. Okay, so I've got this document here, this document library. If I open up my OneDrive, then under my SharePoint, I've got this site wherever I lay my hat, and at the moment I've got those 2 documents in there. Okay, and if you can just see at the bottom, well, you can't because I've cleaned my screen, but OneDrive is actually syncing, and then there's now my health and safety document come in. I just uploaded into SharePoint. So I've now got a local copy synchronized there. Okay. And what I can also do, if I just minimize a few things here, oops, I lost my, sorry, just had a slight technical issue there. What I'm going to do is just create a new Word document, and we'll call it election day. Okay. What I can do, if I've just got my OneDrive open, I can just drag that document into OneDrive. Okay. And then if I go back into SharePoint and just refresh, and there's my election day document coming back into SharePoint. So again, with OneDrive, I've got sort of 2-way interaction with SharePoint. If I load something into SharePoint, it'll appear in OneDrive. If I delete something from SharePoint, it'll get deleted from OneDrive, and vice versa.
And just again, you know, without making any assumptions, OneDrive is something that comes as part of Office 365. It's an online storage facility. It is something that, again, Microsoft are pushing. You get 1 terabyte for free, but they're actually increasing the amount of storage that you get on OneDrive. And if you want to know a little bit more about OneDrive, we'll be uploading some videos to the Office 365 section of the website in the next week or so. They're actually mainly Microsoft videos, so largely a bit American, but some good information. And actually, it's probably going to be easier for you to find them on our site than it is on the Microsoft site. So sorry about that, Tony, sorry, but I think that's probably worth chipping in there.
Okay, so I'm getting tangled up here. So again, just using standard functionality, we have the ability to quite simply just upload documents into OneDrive, have them synchronized up to SharePoint and vice versa. And obviously because you can have OneDrive on multiple devices, this could work on your iPad, on your phone, on your Windows tablet, etc., etc.
Tony, we've got another question come in which relates to OneDrive. So will permissions set on document libraries be effective if they are synced with OneDrive?
It will adhere to the permissions, yes. So if I make a change in OneDrive and I don't have the ability to edit the documents inside SharePoint, that won't get synced back up. Okay. Okay, so that was just a little bit on mobile access to documents using Connect to Outlook, using OneDrive. You know, again, we can have more sophisticated applications if we want to use things like the Caligo briefcase, and there are other applications available out there from other vendors. What I want to do now is move on to how we can make our SharePoint lists, e.g. our forms, etc., available offline. So what I've created is a simple SharePoint list, which is called Site Visit Reports. There's nothing sophisticated about it, other than what I've actually done is I've used Nintex forms to produce multiple versions of the form dependent upon which device we want to access that form by. Okay, so if I just open that up just so you can see, so if I go to the list settings and then go to Nintex forms, I'll just wait while this loads. And this is basically an application which allows us to put more sophisticated forms onto our SharePoint lists. We've just kept this one very simple, so it is purely and simply a mechanism whereby, you know, we can record visits to a client, and if need be have a workflow on the back based upon various list fields. But what we've got is, if you can see on the right hand side here, we've got various layouts. So currently I'm looking at what's called the desktop layout. So that is the form which will be presented to a user when he logs in via his standard PC or laptop. But what I'm also able to do is say, well, actually I'll create a Windows tablet version of this form. Okay, Nintex mobile phone version of it, and I've also got a Nintex mobile tablet version as well. Okay, so these can have different layouts. So on this one I might say, well, I actually want to drag the save button over there a little bit. Okay, move that down, and all I need to do basically is just say, well, I want to publish this, and it'll publish a new version of that form. Okay, and the same with the mobile phone. If I want to slightly adjust anything, you know, the date of visit, if I want to move it across, I can do. I can, you know, again, move various fields around, just all very drag and drop. But the clever thing is, in the background, when I say publish, it's doing all the work that our Star Trek clad developer would normally be doing in sort of .NET or whatever development application we were using. Okay, so we can build multiple versions of a form. They can have different layouts, they can have different fields if need be. If we had a mobile phone version of a complex form, we might just want to present the user when he creates a form with the critical fields we require to be filled in or captured. Yeah. So how does this work in reality? Okay, so if we just close that down, Okay, what I'm actually going to do is say, right, on my site visit reports, I'm going to create a new item. And what I get presented with is the desktop version of the form. So I can just say, okay, well in here, I've been out to see customer TSG. What was the date of the visit? We'll say it was the 5th. What were the notes? Happy with service at, oops, here's me typing going, typing, etc. What are the follow-up actions? We could say, well, you know, provide a quotation or none, and then just save that. Okay, and then it's inside SharePoint. All right. The other element to the Nintex Forms suite of products is an application called Nintex Mobile. Now, Nintex Mobile is an app you can download for iPad, Windows 8 or later devices, Android devices, etc. And it allows you to fill out these forms from those devices while when not connected to SharePoint. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to switch between presenters to Will's machine. Okay, and Will's now opened the Nintex mobile application on his laptop, and he's now filling in via the laptop the same form I filled in connected to SharePoint.
So Tony, Will's using a laptop at the moment, but effectively this is replicating what you would see on a Windows tablet device. The only difference really is that he's using a mouse rather than touch.
Yeah.
The reason we're doing that, and rather than using an iPad, which we'll show you shortly, is that we can't actually connect to this webinar software through the iPad. So, but effectively this is exactly what you would see if you were using a Windows tablet device.
Yeah. So yeah, and then Will's just going to submit that form. Okay, so let's consider Will's just done that, stood in the middle of a field with no connectivity whatsoever. The next time he does pick up connectivity, then it will send that data into SharePoint. So I've come back in now into the SharePoint environment. If I just do a refresh, then there's Will's entry. Dyson visited the client. They're more than happy with our service, etc., etc. So we can use this to capture the data using a form which is automatically rendered for the device which it's being used, and then when the connection is there, it sends the data into SharePoint. And obviously at this point, when it hits SharePoint, we can then trigger a workflow to notify other people. Okay, so if, for instance, this was a site visit report for a landlord type of organization or a letting agent, we could have a drop down on the form to say remedial works required, fit new door, and then that process could then be automated via SharePoint. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just modify the form which we'll use just to show you how any changes are automatically updated. So if I go back into my Nintex forms, we'll just wait while that opens up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to the Nintex mobile tablet, which is a version which is getting rendered through into Will's application, and I'm just going to simply put on a little bit of text just so you can see the change. So I'm just going to say, well, I want to drop a label down here. I'm going to double click and just in here say it's election day and save that. But what I could be doing is adding more fields into the form. I could be changing the layout. I could be adding logos, changing the color, etc., etc. And I'm simply just going to republish that. Okay, so we're back with Will now. Will's just going to refresh his application, and then hopefully now when he clicks Site Visit Reports, there we go, we see it's election day. All right. So it's really easy. You don't have to worry about going around and doing an update on each individual user's tablet, PC, or whatever. The publish is done automatically by Nintex and sends it all out to the relevant devices. Now, if you're wondering what forms do you get the permissions to fill in from the mobile device, it's basically if you have permissions to the list to create new items, then it will download that form and make it available for you. If your permissions are revoked and you're not allowed to do it anymore, the next time you connect, then it will actually remove that form from you. Okay. Okay, so that's just showing that so basically the ability to capture data from multiple device types and different types of form and push that information back into SharePoint and then trigger workflows, etc. So hopefully what we will see, I'm just going to flick into my Outlook, which is very, very dangerous when we're doing a live webinar. So if I see anything contentious, I'll flick out of it. But what it's also done is saying, right, okay then, please approve a site visit for TSG from Tony Hughes. So I've just got a little workflow which is sitting on there, which has created a task for me. So if I was to go back into SharePoint and look at my workflow tasks, I've got a couple of tasks here. So there's a one for TSG, there's one for Dyson, etc. Now, if I was offline and this was coming through onto my mobile phone, I'm just going to show you the SharePoint, sorry, the Nintex lazy approval. Ordinarily, if I wanted to approve this task, I'd actually have to log into SharePoint, go to the task in question, and actually, click on it, edit the task, and say whether I want to approve that or whether I want to reject it. Okay. What I'm going to do here is just simply reply, and I can just say approved. Okay, and when we come back in a couple of minutes time in my workflow tasks, then that task will have automatically been approved. So I haven't had to come into SharePoint to do it. It's the lazy approval mechanism inside Nintex workflow, which will go ahead and actually approve that task on my behalf. But it will be recorded that it was done in effect by Tony Hughes. So I'll just do a refresh to see if that's, so there you go. So that's been refreshed just automatically from the email. Okay. All right, now I'm just going to go back to something I mentioned a little bit earlier about accessing data from SharePoint. I mentioned about using what's called Connect to Excel. So what I'm going to do here is say, well, all the data in this list, site visit reports, I want to export to Excel. And what it actually does is it creates a data connection between the two. So if I say enable, and just sign in, then that data is now connected. So what we can do in the connection properties is we can either say, well, every time I open this file, automatically refresh that data. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just save this file locally to my desktop, and we'll just call it election day data. Okay, and I'll just close that down. We'll just do it from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just add another new item into this list. So I'll just use it from the desktop. Will could be doing this if you wanted. If you want to do one, Will, it's up to you. So we'll say this is for Acme, date of visit, we can say it was the 4th. We'll just put some notes in there. We'll say we want to provide a quotation, and we'll save that. Okay, so that data has now gone into the SharePoint list. The next time I go into Excel and say, well, I want to open my election day data, right, you can see at the bottom here it was saying contacting, and it's just downloaded that data. So I can't have the data from a SharePoint list made available offline, just sitting inside an Excel spreadsheet. More importantly, a lot of people are comfortable using Excel to produce charts and graphs and, you know, and management information. Is that if you're capturing that information and storing it inside a SharePoint list, as you can see, it's easy to connect that into Excel, and then use that data to update, you know, monthly reports to do with health and safety incidents, sales information, number of visits made by people, etc., etc. But bear in mind, this is a one-way. What I can't do is add anything into Excel here and have it update SharePoint. This is purely and simply a one-way transaction coming through.
Yeah, we've got a question, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying. Sorry, Tony, we've got a question there. I wasn't sure whether my microphone was working or not. Okay, I think I'm on.
No, I can't hear you.
Just a second. Sorry about that. We've got a question. I wasn't sure whether my microphone was on or not. I don't think it was. So, in fact, we've got a number of questions. So let me see if I can scroll back and get to the start of that. Right, okay. So with regard to Nintex, if you create a bunch of workflows and then have no requirement to do any others, will they still work if you do not resubscribe to Nintex the following year?
No, they won't work.
Right. Okay, because the reason I asked that is we would like a few things done, but can't see us constantly expanding on creating things using Nintex.
Yeah.
And it's a big cost to continually pay once you have done and completed your work. But what you are getting is that continued benefit of users being able to use these mobile solutions. So essentially, again, and it's that whole subscription basis that a lot of software is looking at these days. So it's not a one-off cost. It's actually something where you're looking at a per user per month cost. And I realise that with Nintex there is a lump payment to get a number of users, but that is an ongoing subscription cost.
Yeah.
Another question is, how is all this data captured, backed up? And for the pessimists of us, are there any products that allow us to connect SharePoint to download a complete copy of your environment?
Right. The data in this scenario here this is all backed up with Microsoft. This is all because this is all Office 365, right? So Microsoft are doing all the backups. You can buy add-ons. I don't know if it's from Symantec or other providers of backup solutions. They provide some tools where you can, in effect, back up your Office 365 data locally to an on-premise server. So you don't have to completely rely upon Microsoft backing up the data. If you want to have your own sort of local copy of the backup, then that can be achieved.
Okay, so in essence, that's like any backup scenario that you might have in your business. And again, that's we've got information on that on the website. And again, if you need more information on that, then please let us know, and we can point you in the direction of somebody who will help you with that. So, brilliant. Thanks very much, Tony.
Okay. Am I back on now, Will? Yeah, thank you. So it's like the flight deck of an Airbus 380 here this morning. We've got so much technology we're trying to use properly. So what we want to do now, this is probably the most scary bit for us, is that we're going to activate a webcam and show you the same form we've just filled in, Windows 8 device, me via the desktop. Okay, so this is the Nintex mobile application running on an iPad. So we can go to our home section, and then in there we've got access to the Nintex mobile app. So if we select the app, Then what we're presented with is all the forms which have been customized using Nintex forms in our SharePoint environment to provide an iPad version of the form. So if we go to the one we were using on this morning's webinar, we've got SharePoint Month Site Visit Reports, so we can select that form, and then we're presented with the form in the iPad format using standard iPad controls. So if we want to put a customer in here, so we can say TSG, the date of visit, and you can see it goes into the standard iPad type of date selection. We're then able to fill out our notes, so we can say happy customer. Okay, we've then got, do we want a follow-up action? So again, it's using the standard iPad functionality for drop-down options, so we can say provide quotation. At this point as well, we could also add an attachment to the form, so we could take a photograph using the iPad or the mobile phone, and then we simply say submit, and that form is then submitted. It will sit in the outbox, and then when we get a connection, it will then automatically get transferred up into the SharePoint Office 365 environment. So you can see the form has now gone from the outbox, and that will be submitted into SharePoint. Okay, so this is the Nintex mobile application running on a Windows phone. So we can select the app, go to our Forms menu, and if we scroll down the phone at the bottom, we will see our SharePoint Month Site Visit Reports. So we can select the form, and this is how it's rendered on the mobile phone. So the customer, we can enter, we can then select the date of visit, so we could say that was on the 6th. Yeah, put in the notes required, so happy with service. Okay, select our follow-up action, so we can say none, and then simply submit the form, and that form will then be submitted back up into the Office 365 SharePoint environment. Okay, right, so what I'm going to do is just recap. I'm just going to pop back into the PowerPoint just to cover some of the things which we looked at. So basically we've covered mobility, so we've looked at, right, can we access documents and data held within SharePoint when offline? So basically, yes, we can do. Can we add documents or data into SharePoint when offline? Yes, from the document perspective, we can use OneDrive, and from the data perspective, like you've seen, we can use Nintex Mobile. Can we respond to tasks assigned via shared workflows when offline? Yes, we can. Okay, so we can use lazy approval and things like that. So again, that could be from our mobile phone, just responding to it. And can we have the entire SharePoint solution available offline? Again, yes, but that would require a third-party application such as Caligo or Iora. So that's me finished from that side of it. We're still waiting for that form to be submitted back, and it looks like because of the coverage we've got, it's not going to happen at the moment. Yeah, it's coming back with an error. I think it's because of the size of the file. The photograph which I've attached was trying to resubmit it. So, not the subject in the photo, yeah. So what I'll do is hand back over to Stephen now to wrap up. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And personally, I hope to see you next week when we're in the really scary one, which is when I've got to try and build something for you all. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Tony. obviously we've been answering questions as we've gone along. So there's nothing else unless anybody has any other questions. Then hopefully we've answered everything. I think what that has done today is demonstrate that this is a technology that really can bring some of what we're used to in the consumer environment into the business world. And again, it's really about using your imagination to work out how that would fit into your business. Clearly, from today, we've had a few issues around connectivity. We've had a few issues with the technology, and I hope that hasn't kind of spoiled what we've tried to do. What we'll try and do, because in actual fact, our webinar technology wouldn't have recorded that webcam footage anyway. What we'll try and do is maybe take a few screenshots or take some video of those forms on the iPad, so that again you can see, if it wasn't too clear, you can see exactly how that works. And if you think today was a bit risky in terms of trying to do these things live, then next week is probably an even bigger challenge. What Tony is going to look to do is he's going to look to build a solution. Now, we've had a couple of people already submit some ideas for that. If you do have anything that is a challenge within the business, then please let us. You can email Tony himself, or you can email info@tsg.com, and that will come through to either myself or Will. We'll collate that. Next week is about showing you that SharePoint can do pretty much anything you want it to, with a bit of clever brain power behind it and some experience, and somebody like Tony and the team that he works with. You can actually do all sorts of things. And again, we've got one coming through which we'll probably add into what we do next week, which is the timesheet solution, which Tony did start to work on that, but I'm sure there's much more that we can build. So next week is going to be pretty exciting. It's going to be a first for us in terms of not really having a structure to the session, but actually trying to build something on the fly. So in terms of where we go next, as we mentioned, the video will be online as soon as we can get it online, which will probably be sometime tomorrow, and we'll email you about that. At the end of this webinar series, we're also going to build a little Windows app, and hopefully, if we can, publish it on the Windows Store, so you'd be able to download that if you're running Windows 8. And that's, again, a little first for us. It'll wrap up all of the video. We'll also wrap up the 5 things you need to know about SharePoint. Again, it's about helping you to see what can be done, and helping you to share that with colleagues who might benefit from some of the technology that you've seen over the last 4 weeks. And again, we'll see you next week.